I've lived everywhere, man. In Texas, anyway. From Waco to Lubbock, Corpus to El Paso, Dallas to San Antonio, with Houston in between. From the defenders of the Alamo centuries ago to Medal of Honor winners of today. We don't ever want to forget the contributions our Mexican-American forefathers have made to enrich the lives of all Texans. We also want to recognize today's rising stars that are paving the way for Texas' next 200 years. May God bless Texas. This is TXMX TV. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of TXMX TV. I'm your host, Orlando Salazar. And in talking about rising stars, we have a true rising star with us today. His name is Omar El Relámpago Juarez. He is a phenomenal boxer. He lives down in Brownsville, Texas, and we are so glad to have him with us today. Omar, welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Hello, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a blessing. Thanks for joining us today. It's really exciting to have you with us today. I'm an old school guy. I grew up watching Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Oscar de la Hoya. So I grew up watching boxers. I'm not into this MMA stuff. So the other day, I was at home on a Saturday evening watching TV, watching my local Fox affiliate, and I see boxing on TV. So I stuck with it and I started watching it. And I saw you, and I thought, wow, this guy is fantastic. So this is what I saw. I saw you just beating the heck out of somebody. Tell us about the fight. Tell us about Linger, the guy you fought. What was it like being in the ring with this guy?
Well, first thing that you could tell off is, he was taking all my hits. That guy was, to this day, probably one of my toughest opponents, but his name was Dakota Linger. He was from West Virginia, I believe, and we knew it was going to be a tough fight because what they have over there in West Virginia is it's a competition called, I guess, the Tough Man competition, where you have to fight like so many fighters, and he's won that twice, actually. So he's not just nobody, but he was a very tough fighter, and I learned a lot. It was a beautiful experience.
Well, while you were fighting, the commentators were saying that you were actually practicing, that you were practicing fighting inside, you were practicing moving your head around a lot. You were basically using this kind of experimenting during the fight to help yourself in future fights. Were they correct in what they were watching?
Well, in some ways, yes, because I could have easily, like, the whole fight, just outboxed him, moving around, doing, like, hitting and not getting hit. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people didn't like that. I was taking a lot of unnecessary punishment, but I told my corner, in the second round, I told him, like, I'm good. His power is not all there. I'm having fun, most importantly. So I was trying to use that to my advantage rather than just, outboxing him, making it more of a boring fight. It kind of was an exciting fight, even though there was no audience. But I feel like just letting those rounds go by, me getting hit a little bit more, because they were saying that's the most I've ever gotten hit. I didn't even know they were keeping track of that, but they said
yeah.
that fight was the most I've ever gotten hit. So that it was a good experience, and I'm glad, my team and we have a good connection. So they saw, all right, he's gonna work on the inside. Let's go ahead and help him with what's gonna help, on the inside, stuff like that. It was a really good fight, and I learned a lot from it.
Well, one of the biggest blows you had was a body shot. I don't know, I think it was a left. But man, when you hit, dude, you get your whole body into it, don't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I love that punch. It's more of like not a stereotype, but I would say like that's like the Mexican punch, the left hook to the body, the gancho al hígado. There you go. That's how you say it.
Hígado, yeah.
That punch has been, my dad's favorite punch, my grandpa's favorite punch. So I wanted to learn from it. My dad showed me how to throw it. We ended up, doing a lot of research on it and stuff like that too. And ever since I was an amateur, even that was sometimes why I would lose, because I was so dedicated to the body. I would hit the body, because, the body hurts way more than on the head. You know, it's just like a tree. If you hit the tree in the bottom, eventually it's gonna fall.
Now you
So
took,
I
you
ended up
took,
falling in love with the body and
yeah.
the amateurs.
Well, and you talk about being an amateur. You had a lot of amateur fights, didn't you?
Yes, I had 120, and I was a six-time national champion with three-time state champion.
Talk about the early fights, the first few fights, because I heard you say, and we're going to watch a little bit of some video that you sent in just a little bit, but you said you lost your first 5 or 10 fights.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I started boxing at 8 years old, and it was also my older brother, Rudy. He was 10 years old, and all the attention, not, I wouldn't say all the attention, but the expectations were high for him. So everybody wanted to see him, do really good. I was more of the little kid in the back, not really real quiet, not wanting to do the sport,
Yeah.
just doing it because my older brother was doing it. I remember being 8 years old, and I wasn't really interested in fighting people. Like, even to this day, it's not something I like doing, but I just happened to be good at it. And ever since I was small, I was very shy. So my father had asked if I wanted to compete. I was 9 years old, and I told him, yeah, I'll give it a shot. So fight after fight, loss after loss, getting off the ring, calling my dad, because he was truck driving, so I'd have to call him, telling him, oh, papi, I lost, crying, stuff like that. The sport was basically telling me to quit, but something inside of me, something in me, just told me just to keep working on, keep working on it, keep working on it. Eventually, all the hard work is going to pay off, and I dedicated my life to the sport, and ever since then, I would win tournament after tournament, national tournaments. We'll go all over the U.S., competing, and then eventually at 18 years old, I got signed. So all the hard work did pay off. It was a bumpy road, it was a big roller coaster, but I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for my parents. So it was a crazy adventure though.
And you talk about working your way up to the point where you started winning. What was the turning point? Was it you getting stronger physically? Was it you learning more technical aspects of boxing? Was it those things coming together? What was that turning point in your boxing career as an amateur where you started winning and you started feeling the difference in your future and what you could do?
I feel like it was because my older brother he got out. His passion was for football, and that's what he's doing right now. He's a collegiate player. So I ended up doing the sport by myself. But I feel like at age 14, once I started to dedicate my whole life to the sport of boxing, I learned, the discipline part, the confidence part, everything that the sport did for me. Like it's such a surreal and beautiful feeling that I can't really explain, through words. It was more like a self-discipline kind of thing that where I'm like, wow, boxing changed my life. And from there, it was just win after win. And I love the results. I love the results that would happen also outside of the ring. Everybody telling me congratulations. People starting to believe in me. Stuff like that. It was just a beautiful feeling that it's kind of hard to explain through words.
Now, one of the things you also say when you were younger, and maybe it was because you were shy, is that you were a mama's boy. Now, not too many guys admit to being a mama's boy. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. Ever since I started boxing, also, like, it was always, as long as my mom was there, it was okay. Now it's different. I still have my mom with me, and she's always going to the fights, and she's always my number one supporter. And I'm grateful to have her. But you know, it was always like that. I didn't like to go anywhere. I didn't like to play sports. I didn't like to do anything. Just be with my mom. That was literally me before boxing. I didn't like to do any sports. My older brother was the person that was more out there. I was more shy. Just wanted to be with my mom. So it's kind of crazy. Who would have thought?
Now, the other thing that I noticed about you as far as your younger days, and that is that you say you didn't like to party. You didn't like to go drinking, basically hang out with the crowd. Was that just normal, naturally part of who you were as a person? Or do you feel like you took on being that way because you became disciplined as a boxer?
Yeah, I remember around that age, middle school, high school, years and stuff like that. I do remember I've never been to a party in my life. I've never drank in my life. I've never done it. I've never done drugs. I've never done anything. So as I was going through my journey in boxing, of course, getting to middle school, kids get older. They want you to do sports. They want you to do stuff with them. They start becoming bad influences in some ways. Then high school, of course, it gets even worse. But I feel like boxing helped me a lot in towards of, like you said, the self discipline, yes, but boxing kept me different, and that's what I loved about it. I love that I was different. I love that I was separated from a lot of people, almost the whole crowd. I didn't like to follow people. I was never a person that liked to follow, so I was always alone. It was perfectly fine, and I was okay with it. I like being alone. But boxing taught me that you know you can't you can't be eating whatever you want. I noticed that you can't be doing after school activities. You can't be doing extracurricular activities. I can't be doing drugs. I can't be partying. I can't be doing anything because it's going to show in the ring. And if I wanted to compete, if I wanted to be 100% on the ring, if I want to be someone in life, I can't be doing anything that's going to get me into trouble. So, I would tell people no. Like, yeah, I had no problem with it. They would ask me, "Hey, Omar, you want to do this?" This, and I'd be like, "Nah, man, I'm good. I can't. I have training. No, I can't. I'm fighting this weekend." For example, on the last days of school, when all the kids would be throwing parties, the end of the year parties and stuff like that. I would have to be there watching them eat because I couldn't, because after school I had to travel to somewhere around the U.S. because right before summer we would plan a big trip to go fighting all over the United States. So I had to stay and wait that last week of school. So I sacrificed a lot. I dedicated my life to this, and I feel like a lot of people saw it as an extracurricular activity or saw me as somebody that wasn't taking it serious. So I feel like me taking it serious separated me from a lot of people, and they just didn't want to be my friend. I guess I don't know. It was different. It was a lonely road, but it was a beautiful one. It was. I was just grateful that my parents were there and my siblings. My little brother as well. He's doing everything that I've been doing, and all the steps that he's going through. Like I've told him, like I've been through there. I've gone through that. He's still an amateur, and I've told him like it's all the hard work is going to pay off.
Well, he's lucky to have you as a mentor, as a guide. So up to this point, you've had how many professional fights?
I have 9. I'm 9-0 with 4 knockouts.
Opponent as a pro.
I'm sorry?
Who has been your toughest opponent as a professional fighter?
Oh, my toughest opponent. I would have to say this last one. This last one, he just kept coming at me for 8 straight rounds. I did fight somebody very similar to Dakota Linger in my first fight. It was actually that big test that they're gonna see if I'm worthy to be signed with the biggest promotion company in the world. So that fight was very very nerve wracking because it was my very first fight. I've never fought professional, and it's on national TV. That usually doesn't happen when in your pro debut. So when I had a lot of stuff, I was sacrificing a lot of stuff. So I just went in my own little zone, and I went. I believe it was 4 rounds. It was a 4-round unanimous decision. But I gotta go with the Dakota Linger fight because it was 8 straight rounds of him just coming at me. So that was a very, very tough fight.
Now, Ring TV magazine says that you are one of the top prospects in the world of boxing. Now, to see that said about you, how does that make you feel? Does that put extra pressure on yourself? Does that take you to the next level as far as training or what your goals might be because people are seeing you in that way?
It doesn't give me pressure, but it motivates me a lot. It's giving me that self-esteem booster that I really need. It's helping me with the training. It's helping me mentally and physically and emotionally, most importantly. But this is all part of it's all part of the plan, really. I'm trying to get to that contender level and then eventually world champion. And from there, it'll all be history. I really want to be in the Hall of Fame. I want to do something that the world has never seen before. The sport has never seen before. And that's what I'm trying to do. Ever since I was younger, I love to be different. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be different in the sport of boxing. But it's a blessing, but it's a big, self-esteem booster.
You just used the word contender. At what point do you become a contender? After how many more bouts, or what's that sequence? What does that look like?
Once you're ranked in like once you're in the rankings, I believe it's once you get maybe like an intercontinental title or a smaller title, something that's before a world title. That's when you start becoming a contender.
And who is the top of your weight class? Who is the world champion right now that who maybe 2 or 3 years from now or less you think you'd be boxing?
His name's Jose Ramirez. He's signed with Robert Garcia. I believe he's a WBC champion, and there's another guy in the UK. His name's Josh Taylor, who I believe is also the Super WBC champion. So I mean, there's a lot of belts. There's, I believe, six important ones, I believe. But there's different world champions, and some go up, some go down. I'm not even sure I'm going to be fighting at 140 once I fight for a world title. So it's going to be different. But I'm ready for it. I'm excited. I really am.
Well, look, you're a great young man. You're a nice-looking guy. So, any comparisons to Oscar de la Hoya at all yet? Has that come into play yet?
No, not really. They just I feel like I'm taking on my own image. I like that's what I like. I have my own originality. I don't like being compared to De La Hoya, Mayweather, anything like that. I tell them I'm doing my own thing. If I would like to become, compared to anybody, it would be Manny Pacquiao. I love what he does for his country and what he does for his people. That's really, somebody that I look up to a lot.
Well, now that you mentioned Manny Pacquiao, I was watching a story about his trainer, and his trainer said he had been watching Oscar de la Hoya, and that he felt like Manny could beat him, even though Manny hadn't had very many fights, because he felt like Manny was quicker than Oscar. And so when they fought, even though Pacquiao was a big underdog, he did beat Oscar. So having heard me say that about a person's weakness or their strengths or whatever, what are you concentrating on right now to make sure that somebody doesn't sneak up on you and catch you in an area where maybe they might perceive you're not at your best?
No, every single time I fight, I always take a week off and I'm straight back to the gym. I'm not doing any extracurricular, activity outside of boxing. I do golf from time to time, but that's to get my mind off of boxing. It's very relaxing. I'm very, very professional with this, and I'm staying very, very active. So that way nobody can catch me, when I'm out of shape or anything like that. It's very, very rare when I'm actually out of shape. So I'm staying active 24/7, but I'm taking it fight by fight, and I know that there's my future Manny Pacquiao or my future Oscar De La Hoya that I'm gonna fight later on, but it's gonna be crazy once we meet. But I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. And I'm always gonna stay active.
Now, you're very proud of Brownsville, being from that part of Texas. You've done a lot of wonderful work for your community. You've done a lot of wonderful things. I want to play a video of you and some of the things that you've done in your community. So we're gonna watch that, and then we can talk about that a little bit. Well, that's pretty awesome. That's love seeing that. But intermixed within that highlight reel about your life is we're seeing you out in the community with kids. What motivated you to want to get out there with kids and be a mentor to them or an example to them?
Well, one thing that I noticed ever since I was smaller, when I started boxing, once things started getting harder, the sport eventually does get to you mentally, physically, emotionally. You start losing friends, you start going through things that only you go through. It's a very lonely sport. So I didn't listen to music to pump me up. I would listen to motivational speeches by Eric Thomas, by Cuz D'Amato, by a lot of fighters, by a lot of motivational speakers. So once I started, accomplishing more, being very successful in the sport of boxing, amateur-wise, where it was a national tournament, state tournament, I was like, wow, if somebody's words can really help me, really inspire me, really change my world around, what can I do? I wonder what I can do. I haven't seen a young motivational speaker. All the people that would usually come to our schools or anything like that were, very old. So I guess not a lot of people would listen. I would listen to what they were saying, but a lot of people weren't very serious about it, especially because he was an older person. So once I graduated early. I graduated at 16, and I got together with my team. It was, I believe, one elementary school where it started from there through word of mouth. It went somewhat viral in the valley and in the community. I started doing a lot of schools. We've done campus over campus, and we've done thousands of students. So it's a beautiful feeling to speak to them about not just boxing, but I speak to them about my life, and I tell them that no matter what their priority is, their dreams, their goals. Too many people give up on their dreams. Too many people give up on their goals. And what I speak about are the 6 key principles on how to achieve your goals, which are no excuses, confidence, discipline, strategy, teamwork, and the most important one, self-worth. And, I talked to them about how I implemented these 6 key principles, not just in boxing and school, but my everyday life. And, the feedback we get it's beautiful. It really is. But I started speaking fresh out of high school. And from there, it's been a beautiful road. It really has.
Is really special to me is the fact that you work with Tebow Foundation. I happen to have a special needs son. So that quality in you and your desire to help that community really means a lot to me. Tell us about how you got involved with Tim Tebow and that foundation and working with those wonderful kids that have special needs.
Well, what happened was here in the Valley, there's a nonprofit organization called Down by the Border. I'm sorry, and they helped me get into there. So I ended up being the MC the first year. The second year, they wanted me to go back, and I mean, I hope they make it again. But it's a beautiful feeling. And what we used to do for the kids with special needs community here in the Valley was we, my dad and I, we have a gym. So what we did was we would open it up on Fridays because we don't have it open to the public. We had it open on Fridays for the kids with special needs for free. So we set up a 4-week every Friday, a 4-week training camp for them, and it was a beautiful feeling. You know, at first when we thought about it, you know, boxing, you know, them trying boxing, maybe we don't know. So my dad had faith in it. You know, he was very he believed in it. So as soon as they came in, we started giving them mitts. You know, they started doing jump roping. We started putting music, hitting the bag, stuff like that, giving them mitts, and they really liked it. They really did. It was a beautiful feeling, and just seeing them smile and seeing them laugh, it was a beautiful feeling. It really was. Yeah, I wish I could show you video, but it was crazy. You know, we definitely do have fun in there.
Well, I applaud you for doing that. Being involved with the special needs community here in Dallas, I know it's very rewarding. And the families that benefit from young men like you and people like you that get involved with that community, we're really grateful. I'd love for you to come to Dallas sometime to meet my son, number one. Number two, to play golf with you. I want to invite you to play golf up here in Dallas with me. So hopefully one of these days we'll do that.
Yes,
Now,
sir,
I know
absolutely.
that, yeah, you're welcome to come up. Now, you met Julio Cesar Chavez. It meant a lot to you meeting him. He was a great fighter. Tell me about that.
Well, here in Brownsville, what we do every Charles Days is he ended up being the Mr. Amigo, and every year when they bring someone in the Charles Days parade and all these festivals, the Mr. Amigo is somebody that's famous. And this year, you know, it happened to be Chavez, and so I don't know. I guess it was through word of mouth that he found out that, you know, I'm the professional from here, and we have our own gym. So he went to go train there because he had his exhibition match, you know, maybe a week or two afterwards. So we ended up training together. It was pretty cool. He gave me a couple of tips, and that was such a surreal feeling because I remember, you know, my dad talking about him, my grandpa showing me videos of him, and for me to be training right next to him to be at my gym, him shake my hand even is. I still can't process it to this day. It's crazy. A lot of stuff has happened because of the sport, and I don't think it will process anytime soon.
Well, listen, it's been an honor and a pleasure visiting with you today, getting to know you a little bit better. That night that I saw you on TV, I was blown away. And now the fact that I've had a chance to speak with you and get to know you, I'm even more impressed because you're as great a person on the inside and who you are as an individual away from boxing as you are so terrific being in boxing. So we look forward to following your career. We look forward to watching you fight for a world championship. We look forward to you winning that championship and being able to talk to you after that. Is there anything you'd like to tell your fans or anything you'd like to say to everybody?
I just want to thank you guys so much for all the support, really. Every time I step in the ring, I feel invincible, and I feel like God is watching over my back because of everybody that supports me. And thank you guys. It really means a lot. You know, I don't say it a lot, but it really does mean a lot. You know, boxing is the toughest and loneliest sport in the world, and I don't feel lonely because, you know, I have a whole community behind me. So thank you guys so much. And you know, we're gonna go 10-0, 10-0. Hopefully in December. We're not sure, but I know that there's gonna be one more fight in this year.
Well, if I could be there, I would be. I know with COVID, you can't have any fans there, but I'll be watching wherever it happens. I'll be watching you, man. God bless you. And thank your mom and dad for letting you do this. And hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Omar.